Listen to the radio. Harry and Edna's Wireless Show. You heard it from the Three Bells.
What-o, Harry?
And what-o, Edna. And welcome. You're listening to Harry and Edna on the Wireless.
What-ho?
And what-o, and welcome to Harry and Edna on the Wireless. And today is a special day. We are going to do a bit of time travel. What am I saying?
No, we're not.
Well, kind of, because we love our 1930s, we love our 1940s, but we're going to delve into the 1950s.
Because I hear it's sort of hip and happening and swinging.
I believe this is high-octane rockabilly.
Really? Gosh, that might be too high-octane and fizzy-wizzy for us.
It might be. We got our good chums, the Broadway Twisters. So quite a while ago, we recorded a cracking interview with them, and we're going to play it. Now, yes, they are full on heavy, not heavy metal, but like heavy rockabilly.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
They also do a whole variety of tracks, and I must admit, I've gone for the more sedate tracks.
But they do get you up and bopping away. I think it was it, would I be right in saying jiving?
Oh, that'll never catch on.
That's a bit too fast.
And to be honest, the reason I thought we should play this was if you follow us on the social media, you know, on the usual Facebooks and Instagram, it's Harry and Edna on the Wireless, or Harry and Edna if it's on Instagram. One of the reminders came up was when we were curating a vintage afternoon for Dame Cleo Lane, and the Broadway Twisters closed the night or the afternoon off for us.
Well, we sort of did a vintage music afternoon, didn't we?
Through the decades.
Through the decades,
we
from
went
the 20s.
Off. Yes, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was from the 20s right through to the 50s. So it was a real kind of musical journey, and they are such talented chaps. They really are.
They are, and I was listening to some of their tunes, and they've released a new one. It's on YouTube. I'm sure the video is on YouTube, and I was in awe that they are so. You're right, they are just so talented. Right, before we go a bit further, I think perhaps we should have the Cuban Boys. What's their first name?
Oh, I can't put my glasses
on. Well, I can't pronounce that.
Lecuona.
Yeah.
Lecuona? Cuban Boys. La Havana, Paris.
However, we used to use this when we used to run our vintage nightclub. That's all about what we did. The show always is about that.
We did all these things.
We used to use this for the conga.
Yes.
And we used to use a conga, and we used to go right through the theatre.
The original conga music? Or is that what we used to say?
I don't know. No, I never said that.
Do you think?
No,
I think we did.
Well, it might be
It's our version of the conga, isn't it, almost?
I am renowned for just making up history.
Well, this is why I suddenly doubted what I was about to say.
I am known to just add facts, because we both, do the old lectures, and sometimes I just get bored, and so I stick a bit in to see if anybody is even paying attention.
It's their frowning faces as they think, what? I don't think that's right.
And going really off on a tangent, my greatest pride was getting something totally historically inaccurate in a TV series, a documentary called The Wartime Farm. Mm-hmm. And it was about the mock turkey.
Yeah.
The murky.
Yeah.
And we just made that up.
Well,
and they were saying it's an authentic recipe. And I was thinking, well, it was authentic as in like 1999, probably, from a Milton Keynes kitchen.
But, hey-ho, we created history. That's what we do, isn't it? We create history as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What-ho?
Well, I hope that got you congering round your front room or wherever it is that you're listening to us.
Yeah, because it always does remind me back when we used to run the Hedner's Vintage Nightclub. And it was in a theatre that had two auditoriums. We were in one, and there was another one. And we used to do the conga, and we used to go out through the foyer and occasionally into the other auditorium just to put off whoever was performing. Which
was usually some sort of, rock band or something completely opposite to what we were doing. And then there was all these people in their finery congering round the foyer. Yeah. And then in we went, doors shut, and people thought, what on earth was going on? Yeah. But it's such a good tune. It makes your shoulders go, I think. You can't sit still to that one.
No, you can't. Now, history lesson.
Okay.
I said I make stuff up.
Yeah.
When I do the talk circuit.
Sometimes.
And I have been known to make it up just because. Well, you did a lot more talking than I did. Did you ever get bored doing it and just saying the same spiel, or did you?
No.
Were you never tempted to make some stuff up?
No. What I did get was when I used to do talks on the wartime Christmas, and it was quite a popular subject for the WIs. Where we used to live, we bordered 3 counties, and so I got quite booked up, which was brilliant. Literally from October. And do you remember that one week I had sort of 3 or 4 talks on the same subject, and I remember my mouth moving and things coming out, my brain going, did I say that? Was that last night? Is that tomorrow? And my brain was detached from what my mouth was saying. That was a slight surreal moment. But no, I never made things up because I was talking to an audience that remembered it. So,
see, now, on our beloved island, I do have a day job, and I have to give talks to the visitors. And it's the same spiel every time. And I must admit, sometimes the odd little addition to history gets slipped in. Mm-hmm. But this is actually absolutely true.
Yeah.
The next track is by a lady called Sister Rosetta Tharpe.
Yeah.
Now, if you've not heard of her, well, you've missed out. You should Google her, look her up on YouTube. There's tracks of her playing. She's a lady that some people say, and this is generally true, might have invented rock and roll. She might have been the link before Elvis and Bill Haley and all these people came along.
I thought she influenced Elvis, didn't she?
Heavily.
Yeah.
Heavily.
Which is bizarre. Yeah. For a female, black, in their 40s.
Doing gospel.
With an electric guitar. Yeah. Who'd have thought?
Because, I must admit, we know most of our history from Sister Rosetta, from what we watched a documentary. And one of the reasons she had the electric guitar was because it was just her a lot of the time. And she had to try and make a lot of noise. So it was this newfangled in the 40s to have an electric guitar, but it just gave her a bit more oomph than, say, a big band. And this ties in beautifully with the Broadway Twisters who are doing rock and roll.
Yeah. It's an amazing track. It's brilliant. And when you do Google her story, because it's an incredible journey for her, isn't it, as an artist and a black woman in those times to conquer and pioneer music.
It certainly is. So much so, we're going to go to the interview we recorded quite a while back. And when we're in the studio recording with the guys from the Broadway Twisters, they actually do pay respect to the lady as well. So we're going to play Sister Rosetta Tharpe. The track, I think most people, if you have heard of her, you'll know this song. It's called Up Above My Head, I Hear Music in the Air. And then we'll go into young Edna having a chat with the wonderful Broadway Twisters.
What ho?
No,
and your sort of sound is described as high-octane rockabilly.
That's
now,
right.
for our listeners who are kind of into the 30s, 40s music, we're kind of emerging now into the 50s. Am I right with rockabilly? How do you describe that sound?
Elvis invented it, really, but it was just a very basic, raw, rootsy, no nonsense, no frills, no cherry on the top form of music.
But it's very noisy and very loud, very fast.
It can be. Yeah. It's where rock music began.
So, because we were talking earlier about the sort of progression of music. So in the 30s and 40s, you had your big band sound, but there were other elements of music developing, and we were talking about one of my kind of unsung heroes is a lady called Sister Rosetta Tharpe, who was a coloured... she was in the church, wasn't she, Harry? She was
a gospel singer. She started off as,
and she was one of the first people to pick up and play an electric guitar, which I think is fantastic. Because she's female and basically slightly sexist there, but she was a coloured lady who was trying to make her way in a world that was obviously. Having trouble with coloured people at the time, but she kind of picked up this electric guitar, learnt to play it, played it fantastically well.
She was brilliant.
Yeah, and then she kind of led the way with some of the riffs and things that she was playing, but we weren't really ready for it, were we, in the 30s and 40s?
She just might be the missing link between gospel and rock and roll. I mean, obviously a lot of soul singers and stuff came out from gospel, and a lot of the blues, kind of split off from there. But Sister Rosetta Tharpe, she was quite a girl, really. She also had brilliant taste in guitars as well. She had a white Gibson SG.
You've got to start on guitars now.
Yeah, she was sort of like, I guess she was one of the missing links in between that. As a big band era started to sort of diminish, and then sort of more rootsier, heavier, electrified form of blues started coming through, and she was definitely one of the pioneers.
What ho?
So why did the big band sound disappear, do you think?
I think it's money, honey. You know, it was just a lot cheaper. You know, you got two guys with a couple of Strats and, a couple of amplifiers, so you could get a 4-piece band, it could play a dance. You know, it cost you hardly anything. Big bands, I mean, it is what it says on the poster outside. I'm not going to say tin. You're talking about 20 guys, you know, you could be talking about 20 people, you know. Basically, you just got yourself a Fender amp and you're off.
It's minimalist, isn't it? You know, even you look at the early stuff, didn't even have drummers, you know. Had a slap double bass, and that was all the rhythm they really sort of needed.
Yeah, they didn't even use drums originally, rock and roll or rockabilly bands, you know, that was always kind of like, felt it's for parades, you know.
Oh, right.
Jazzers and stuff, but then it came in, you know. Well, as soon as Elvis used a drummer, everyone else went, yeah, let's use a drummer.
Yeah. So therefore, Sam, you have a job now. So how did you guys come together and form as the Broadway Twisters?
There's a local singer called Adele Johnson. She knew Billy, and she introduced me to him. We started doing a few country tunes and stuff, and then...
Well, we were sort of a two-piece, really.
Acoustic. We did a lot of demos on our own, and he suggested, I know this drummer from over in Houghton Regis, do you want to get him in? And to be honest, I wasn't that convinced, because we were just doing it for a laugh, just for demos, really. So yeah, I'll bring him over, whatever. And he came over, and it gelled, and it was all very lovely, and we thought, okay, let's be a trio, you know. And,
so why rockabilly? Do you all like rockabilly music? Is it something you all kind of went, what should we do?
No. Rockabilly.
Your dad?
Forcing me every morning, every Sunday morning, Tom Jones on, and it was Elvis. It's like listening to
So you were force-fed it as a child?
Well, every Saturday morning, Sunday morning, Elvis would be playing. And then all the outside,
we're king, man.
And then I kind of just took it on, just found my own.
Found your own.
You like more?
And you never look back.
It does.
What ho?
Yes, it's the first time you've ever heard that kind of music here on Harry and Edna on the wireless.
Yeah.
Don't worry, normal service has now been resumed. However, we will be going back chatting with the chaps. Do they call themselves chaps, or are they dudes, or are they
lads,
rockers, or are they the lads? We'll be going back to them after I play a little bit of Jules Holland. So, do you remember that day when they came in?
Yes.
It was a real giggle, wasn't it?
It was. It was very cosy in the studio, wasn't it, with everybody in?
And I don't think we recorded this part of it, but one of the voices you heard there was a chap called Billy, and we were reminiscing how... where we used to live, we remember him as a much younger person, and he used to go up and down the street in a Dalek, in a replica, full-sized Dalek.
Yeah, which was just bizarre, wasn't it? But his dad built it for him with the blueprints, I think, wasn't it? It's very clever. You
remember I said we did the conga around the foyer and around an auditorium when we did a night. We once did one night where we ventured into the world of steampunk. And we borrowed his Dalek to be the compere. Yeah. And then again, I think there was some rock band on in the other auditorium, and as they came out, they discovered a Dalek in the middle of the foyer. It was a surreal night, but it was such fun, wasn't it? It was. Although I was the Dalek, I was actually inside the Dalek trying to be. No, it wasn't you. Well, it was me, and then if you remember, I was poorly. I didn't feel well, so I did the opening in the middle. Yeah. And then Mini Harry, our son, had to take over. Yes. But I still did the voice. And there was from the wings. Yes, and there were some rather lewd comments with regard to the Daleks' sink plunger. I'm sure there's an official Dalek-y word for it, but if you remember, I made a gag about that, the sink plunger. You did, and then there were some lewd comments, and we had to sort of say, 8-year-old son's in there. Can you refrain, please, from being rude? This actually leads on to I was looking at what the chaps, the Twisters, are up to, and I might try and squeeze it in if we get the chance. They're still producing music, and they did this classic sort of 1960s sort of Mr. On's Captain Scarlet, Joe 90s style music, a bit sort of tiki, rocky rolly. and it's a cracking track. I might try and if we can call it up. I might see if we can try and squeeze it into the show. So the chaps are still there, and they are probably some of the most talented musicians. In fact, Billy, who we're talking about, is there an instrument that man cannot play?
Oh, he's so talented. It's sickening, isn't it?
Yeah.
He just sort of picks up these instruments and has a little go, and then suddenly he's a skilled, musician in them.
And then Adrian, who is the lead singer, and again with a tremendous taste in guitars. Where we used to live, right now I lived there for many years. He was a major doyen in the local music scene, and he's a chap who greatly admired for all his wonderful work that he does. And amazing singing. So we salute you. I just did the salute, but you cannot see that. But imagine it. That here we go, our wonderful 30s person saluting those young kids of the day back in the 1950s.
Or forward in time into the 1950s.
So how's this then?
Right.
Are we going forward in time because we're going to play some Jules Holland? But he's playing Tuxedo Junction, which is a classic.
So it's a modern take on a vintage tune.
I think so. And then we'll go back to young Edna chatting to the Broadway Twisters.
What ho?
Why did you kind of choose 50s?
It was strange because, like, a lot of people our age, you get into it because of their parents, like Sam did. But I didn't. My parents never into it, but my dad was into the classic motorbikes, you see.
Yeah.
And he works restoring them now. And really it was through that rock and roll music and rockabilly music sort of go hand in hand together with the classic motorbikes, really from the whole sort of mods and rockers era. And it's from going to bike shows and meeting and talking to people like that that really opened me up to it. And of course I was they'd only just started playing bass guitar at the time, and it was a sort of a strangely natural progression that I wasn't really aware of. And about 2 years later I realised I was into it.
Crept up on you.
Yeah.
So is that when the hair starts, do you then go, oh, actually I quite fancy a quiff and do my hair like that? Or
I sort of experimented with it because I had really long hair, like hair I could sit on.
Yeah.
And I didn't Sam's cringing at the moment.
Mine's syrup, but we remember.
Yeah.
Oh, of course you do.
Just to say, Billy's our neighbour.
Yeah, by the way. It was long,
and we're not talking about the Dalek, are we?
No, talk about the Dalek later,
I'll tell you that later. But, so I was trying for a bit, because I didn't want to cut it off, I didn't want to part with it, so I thought, could I make a quiff out of the whole thing?
Right.
And it was a complete disaster. Obviously, it was just almost dangerous.
You didn't get planning permission.
Yeah. I mean, it was a blot on the horizon, the whole thing. Yeah. Well, what was annoying was because I decided to take the plunge, if you will, and I cut it all off to do it into a quiff, and then it took me about 2 years to figure out how to do a proper quiff. Really,
took me a good old. Got it cut from some dodgy, like the council cut it. I used to put it up and go up and it all flop and that, and then
council did it.
My council did it. And then I found a bloke shop in Luton called Storm.
Right.
And he does it.
Tool shop.
He
cuts his hair with a flick knife.
I used to go there.
We will get a photo of you because that is an amazing quiff, if you don't mind me saying.
I don't know how they got it in here.
I've just got to quickly ask, if I could just jump in about hair. You said, does that mean that every time you get your hair done you now have to go to Luton? The reason I ask that is that I have real trouble trying to find someone who can do a proper short back and sides. In fact, I don't think there's anybody local
I'll tell you,
that you can do proper short back and sides. And I would willingly travel to Luton if I knew to get a decent haircut.
Retro haircuts. His shop is like normal stuff, but then he does.
Yeah, because most modern, if you go into a regular barber's and say, I want short back and sides, you'll walk out with a short haircut, which isn't a short back and sides. And I didn't know, do you have the same problem if you walked into your, I won't say a high street chain, but...
I used to go to Storm, the same as Sam, but Sam lives in Dunstable, don't you?
Yeah.
So it's alright, but I worked in Luton at the time, so then when I didn't, it was a long way to go. But I go Raymond Charles in... I think Fenny Stratford,
I'm sure we'll have to go to a track house.
Yeah, he's one of these who's been doing it since.
Yeah, but is it the same with hair though? You know, trying to find a proper vintage barber is you just can't go to.
You have to go to somebody who knows what he's doing.
That first place, I don't know what the shop's called, but the first place I went to, it was just it was terrible. He'd be like cutting me, he'd be like not doing it. I
wonder what's going to happen when this generation of hairdressers die out.
That's what I'm worried about.
See, there's a little niche in the market there. There's a second day job for you.
You know, there's lots of female vintage stylists. We've had them on this show before, but the guys or the chaps just don't get a look in, and I think there is a market there because I've paid some decent money because I knew it was going to be a decent cut.
But do they have to? Sorry, excuse my ignorance now. As a complete female,
supposed to be talking about their music.
Yeah, no, just one question about hair. Is it cut specially then? I mean, do you kind of?
Well, because he has to sort of anticipate how it's going to look when it's all done.
Right. Okay.
So, because he can't just sort of cut it.
Does he then stick it up and however you do a quiff?
Well, I don't know what you do, but I go in with it completely clean and in my face and everything, and then
so I had my hair down like all the time. My hair's down.
Because Sam doesn't really have hair anywhere else except his quiff. So when he doesn't do the quiff, he's just got a fringe and then sort of skinhead around the back. It looks brilliant.
Right, we better go to one of your tracks now. So
we could pick the slowest one I could find on the album.
What we'll do is we'll ramp it up gradually towards the end of the show.
Yes, we're going to play the last track we play on this.
And run away.
We're going to run away and watch the gramophone melt.
What ho?
With Adrian just wandering off there as the singing...
Drifting away,
away.
He wasn't wandering off as if he didn't care. He just drifted away.
No, in fact, because maybe he was here with us on our beloved little island and he was like Iggle-Piggle on his boat, drifting off. He takes the sail down and wraps himself up.
Oh, that's quite sweet.
Like in the night garden, and he just sails off going... I can't... You could hum the...
No, it just it's totally ruining the mood. It just reminded me of the Mana when he sort of fades away and then comes running back. You almost expect Adrian to suddenly come back to the mic and start singing again.
I was worried about that because I hadn't heard that particular track of theirs in a long, long, long time, and I was in danger in case he decided to row his boat quickly back to shore. And then go
louder again, as if he was drifting back towards us.
Yes, because he got caught in a tide.
Yeah, a rip tide.
They go out.
They go out. Sorry, what's the ones that come in? An inward tide.
An inward tide.
Incoming tide. That's the word.
He was bodyboarding.
Honestly, we are nautical and live by the coast.
he was surfing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I'm going to see if I can find that track. I'm looking around at our technical studio, and I just don't know if we've got the technical nouns to play that particular...
The new track?
Newish track. It's about 2 months old.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have the technical nouns to do that. I'll try.
You can do it, Harry.
I'll try and fit it in. So, that was our little foyer from our beloved 1930s, 1940s music to the 1950s. And then I thought we'd just keep that little theme going by playing a little bit thing from the Spiders, and this is Tears Begin to Flow. Now, if you go to the Twinwood Festival, which is the big vintage festival here in the UK, probably maybe even one of the biggest ones in Europe, it's an absolutely huge event. They play a lot of this type of music while the acts are changing over.
What ho?
Normal service will now be resumed because we're going to play some Bing Crosby and Andrews Sisters just to try and keep the balance right, the yin and the yang of our beloved 1940s period.
So it was quite... You called it doo-wop, didn't you?
Doo-wop, I would say.
Yeah.
Sort of thing that you would get on a good old dance-it record player, which are the modern ones that you don't have to wind up.
No, we like our shellac, don't we? We like our 78 gramophones and winding up and hearing them slow down and then stop if you don't get to them in time. That's a proper record player, isn't it?
Yeah, I was actually thinking, because at the Twinwood Festival, I actually play music and do a little bit of compere in one of the stages. And I always do the music for wind-up gramophone, just to add giggles. And I'll be honest, I deliberately let it slow down sometimes.
Do you?
Just to make people realise it's not just... I'm not just playing like well, it wouldn't be a tape deck, would it? It'd be like an MP3 player. It's actually proper shellac. So just let people know I deliberately let it wind down and then do lots of arm waving as I try and wind it back up again.
Do you also pause and change the needle? Have a little interlude and you go do 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 while you're changing the needle?
Because when I very first started doing this, I used to have 3 gramophones and I used to run between all 3 trying to keep them going, and I just couldn't do it. No. I couldn't change the needles, wind them up and change the music. It's like a modern DJ. It's like it's record after record after record with no gap. You can't do that with 78 gramophones, or I couldn't, unless you have arms and the skill of a gibbon. I don't think you've got a hope. You
found that quite tricky, didn't you?
I also find it incredibly tiring. It is more than my poor little arms could cope with, I'm afraid.
Talk about vinyl. Should we talk about vinyl?
Well, I'm talking shellac.
Well, no, you're talking shellac. I was going to move us on to vinyl.
For those who don't know, shellac was the precursor of vinyl. It was a different type of plastic, but then vinyl came along, which was far superior.
Shellac was a very hard plastic, wasn't it? It's not plastic as we would know it, because they do obviously break the minute you drop them.
The slightest thing, there's no scratching.
It's just cracks, and they crack.
And they crack, and they don't like heat at all. So when you are DJing at a festival
in a heat wave,
I have to have people fanning
your shellacs. Has to be put in a fridge so they. But we did find at the Twickenham Festival, because there is a chap there who deals in vinyl and shellac, and we were so chuffed. I always forget who sings it. Sweet and Lovely. Al Bowley. And we found one of our favourite songs on shellac, and it was just really exciting, wasn't it?
Yeah. Trouble is, I'm so proud of that. I don't take it out to DJ
we
with,
just
and
look
I
at
wish
it lovingly.
I could, because I love it. Interestingly, take off a tangent. Today, for a radio station we don't actually broadcast on, but they did want to do a little feature on Harry and Edna, and they asked me to list the top 18 tracks in our life. 18, yeah, that took some time. I was very tempted just to grab a CD off the shelf and just list them all 1 to 18, but no, I did it properly. Yeah. And number 1, I put Sweet and Lovely.
Yeah.
What ho?
Oh, that was very sedate and lovely, wasn't it?
It is. Yin and Yang has been restored. You can't beat a bit of Bing. Bing is not known for picking up his Gibson Stratocaster Fender, whatever it is.
Birkin guitar.
No, not our Bing.
No.
Nor does the Andrews sisters don't do the Pete Townsend windmill while playing the guitar.
No, I don't think they were ever known for that, were they?
No. I said that because right at the beginning we were talking about Sister Rosetta Tharpe, and she used to do that big windmill thing that Pete Townsend then copied.
Really?
Yeah, she was first. Not making this up. Honestly, I'm not making these up.
So is that a proper historical fact, or is that one from Harry's World?
No, it is a historical fact. And in fact, if you look up Sister Rosetta Tharpe on YouTube, you'll see her doing that very big windmill-y thing. Windmill-y. Yes, that thing.
Cool.
Well, I think it's time for us to say Ting Tonk and go. We're going to quickly play out with this track we were talking about from the Broadway Twisters. I'm going to find it down. Can't tell you the name because I'm still rapidly searching through the files of the Tinternet to pull it up. But by the time we finish talking, I'll have found it. So it's a Tinky Tonk from me.
And a Toodle Pip from me.
What ho?